You've heard this one. Rome fell because its emperors went mad from leaded wine. It's a great story. It was in your textbook. It's on YouTube. It's almost certainly wrong. But the real story? The real story is somehow worse. Rome 54 AD. Somewhere in a wealthy villa, a kitchen slave stirs grape juice in a lead-lined pot. It bubbles. It reduces. It turns dark and syrupy. He dips a finger and tastes it. It is sweeter than honey. That sweetness has a name. The Romans called it sappa, or defrutum, depending on how long you boiled it. Chemists today call it lead acetate, a poison, and for 400 years, the Roman aristocracy drank it in their wine, cooked with it in their stews, and fed it to their children. Here's the part that will stay with you. They knew. One of their own engineers, a man named Vitruvius, wrote down the warning in the 1st century BC. He described lead workers with pallid faces, their blood ruined, their vigor destroyed. He said water carried through earthen pipes was more wholesome than water through lead. He wrote this down. They kept it in their libraries, and they built lead pipes for 400 more years. So this video is going to ask you a question that keeps coming back. When a civilization knows it is poisoning itself and chooses to keep going, what are we supposed to do with that? Because it's not just a Roman question. Imagine Vitruvius, an old Roman architect in the 20s BC. He has seen the mines. He has seen the men who work them. He writes, and I quote, "The workers in lead are of a pallid color, for in casting lead, the fumes from it, fixing on the different members and daily burning them, destroy the vigor of the blood." This is, as far as we know, the first written description of industrial lead poisoning in human history. Vitruvius was not a crank. His book De Architectura sat on Roman shelves for centuries. It was required reading for anyone building an aqueduct, a bathhouse, a villa. So why didn't they listen? Because lead was cheap, because lead was useful, because silver, the backbone of the Roman currency, could not be smelted without producing mountains of lead as a byproduct. Every coin in a Roman purse was paid for in lead fumes rising from a slave's lungs in the mountains of Spain. The lead was free, and when something is free, you find uses for it. Pipes, cookware, cosmetics, paint, coffin linings, medicine, and most famously, a sweetener. A Roman farmer named Columella wrote a cookbook around 60 AD, 12 volumes on agriculture. One of them is basically a wine manual. He is precise to the point of obsession. Take your grape must. Pour it into a lead vessel. Boil it slowly until it reduces by half, or by 2/3 for the darker version. Scrape the sides. Strain, store. And here's his dose. 1 sextarius, about 546 milliliters, of this lead syrup per amphora of wine. An amphora is 26 liters. Do the math with his own numbers. A wealthy Roman drinking about 1 liter of sweetened wine a day, and they did drink that much, was ingesting up to 20 milligrams of lead. Every single day, 20 milligrams. The modern World Health Organization's tolerable daily intake. Effectively 0. And it wasn't just wine. The Apicius cookbook from the late 4th century has about 450 recipes. Around 90 of them, 1 in 5, call for a lead derivative. In 2009, a team at the History Channel reconstructed Roman defrutum in a historically accurate lead pot. They sent a sample to a lab, 29,000 parts per billion of lead. The U.S. legal limit for drinking water today is 10 parts per billion. The Roman syrup clocked in at 2,900 times that. And here's the part that messes with your head. It's genuinely sweet. Chemists have a nickname for a lead acetate. They call it sugar of lead. European confectioners were still using it in the 1800s. Beethoven's hair, analyzed in 2005, was full of it. The Romans weren't suffering to drink their poison. They liked it. It tasted like honey. Now here's where the story turns. For 60 years, pop history told one version of Rome and lead. In 1965, an American sociologist named Gil Fillen wrote a paper called Lead Poisoning and the Fall of Rome. In 1983, a geochemist named Enriagu published in the New England Journal of Medicine. He claimed 19 out of 30 Roman emperors showed symptoms of lead poisoning. Gout, erratic behavior, madness. That is where the Mad Emperor meme comes from. Caligula and his horse in the Senate. Nero fiddling while Rome burned. Lead poisoning, went the theory, had rotted the aristocracy from the inside. It's a seductive story. It's also, according to the 2025 science, wrong. In January 2025, a glaciologist named Joe McConnell and his team at the Desert Research Institute published a bombshell paper in PNAS. They had drilled ice cores in Greenland, columns of frozen atmosphere 3,400 meters long, each layer a year, each year a snapshot of what the northern hemisphere was breathing. They read the ice. They found a dark band, a thick, ugly signature of lead pollution that rose sharply around 15 BC, peaked between 27 BC and 165 AD, and then dropped. That window? That's the Pax Romana, the 2 centuries we consider Rome's golden age. Peace, trade, civilization, and peak lead pollution. Here's the part that gave the scientists chills. They weren't just measuring pollution in the sky. They had a model to convert that pollution back into blood. Lead levels in Roman children. Empire-wide, from Britannia to Syria, from rich to poor. Their finding, during the Pax Romana, children across the Roman Empire had blood lead roughly 2.5 micrograms per deciliter higher than background levels. That is enough, by modern pediatric science, to drop average childhood IQ by 2 to 3 points, 2 to 3 IQ points across an entire empire for 200 years. It wasn't the wine that did it. It was the air. Think about what that actually means. A child in a stone hut in Londinium, a baby in a village in Tunisia, a Roman girl playing in a street in Pompeii. None of them ever drank a drop of sapa. None of them ever touched a lead pipe, and all of them had lead in their blood, because the lead was in the smoke, and the smoke went everywhere. The mines in Rio Tinto in Spain, at their peak, employed 40,000 enslaved workers. Expected lifespan, a few years. Every ingot of silver that stamped an emperor's face onto a coin rose as lead vapor from the lungs of a dying man. That vapor crossed the continent, fell in rain, settled in ice, entered the bloodstream of every infant in the empire. In 2021, a bioarchaeologist named Moore looked at Roman London. She examined the teeth of fetuses and newborns. The lead was already there. It had crossed the placenta. Mothers were poisoning their children before they were born, and nobody knew. This is the quietest horror in the story. It's not mad emperors. It's a slow, continent-wide dimming, 2 IQ points on average. Some children worse, some fine. Impossible to see from inside. Impossible to unsee from the outside. The empire could absorb that. An empire is big. A person cannot. So did Rome fall because of lead? No. That part of the story is also wrong. Rome did not fall in one lead-poisoned lurch. Its decline was a 300-year unspooling. Barbarian pressure. Climate shocks. Plagues. Civil war. Economic stagnation. Religious upheaval. Historians disagree about the exact recipe, but they do agree on this. Lead, if it's on the list at all, is not near the top. Caligula wasn't mad from lead. He was arrogant and cruel. which was a family trait. The horse in the Senate story was almost certainly satire. Ancient political satire. And here's the cruelest irony of all. The moment Rome's lead pollution finally dropped, the moment the ice core goes clean again, was around 165 AD. Why? Because the Antonine Plague had just killed so many miners that silver production collapsed. The empire stopped poisoning itself only when it started dying of something else entirely. This is the ending we want to be clean, and it refuses to be. So, why does this story matter to us, sitting here in 2026? Because we stopped using leaded gasoline in the 1990s, we stopped leaded paint in the 1970s, and in 2014, the city of Flint, Michigan poisoned a generation of American children by switching their water supply to a source that ate through old lead pipes. Rome is not ancient. Rome is a funhouse mirror. Vitruvius wrote down the warning in the 1st century BC. His book sat on shelves for 2,000 years. The Flint engineers had his warning. They had modern toxicology. They had a century of science on pediatric lead exposure. They had every Roman's excuse removed, and they still made the same mistake. So when we ask, did the Romans know? Yes, they knew. When we ask, why did they keep going? Because lead was cheap, and silver was valuable, and the warning was written in a book that nobody in power actually read. Look around your own life. Your plastic bottles, the microplastics in your blood, the forever chemicals in your drinking water, the air outside your window. Somewhere right now, there is an equivalent of Vitruvius writing down a careful warning about something you use every day, about something the people around you make a good living selling. In 2,000 years, somebody will drill an ice core through Greenland and read our air, and they'll find a dark band running through the 21st century. The question is not whether they find it. The question is how thick that band turns out to be. That part that is still being written, and it is being written by us. But the ice cores don't only record what we put into the air. Sometimes they record what the earth does to itself. Picture a farmer in France. The summer of 1831, he walks out at dawn and looks up, and the sun is the wrong color, pale, cold, almost blue. Snow is falling on his wheat. In June, crops are failing across Europe, across Asia, across North America. Nobody can explain it. Nobody will for another 200 years. Somewhere, a volcano has erupted, a big one. Big enough to drop the whole planet's temperature for a year, big enough to turn sunlight blue, and nobody knows where it is.